Alright, today we're going to be starting our new geometry lesson. Now that we are done with rounding, we're doing Unit 2, Lesson 2 today on lines. It's going to be found in your textbook on page 51 through 54. Two of the lines that we're going to be speaking of today, one is called a line and the other one's called a line segment. The line never ends. It doesn't have a starting point nor a stopping point, so it never ends. And a line segment has two spots, and these are like stoppers. They're called the endpoints. So there's an endpoint here, and there's an endpoint here. So it has two stoppers. And you'll only go from here to here versus a line, where a line's going to go here and all the way, keeps on going both ways. It'll never end. It'll wrap around or whatever, but it's a straight line. The question on page 51 says you can measure to find the length of a line, a segment, but you cannot measure to find the length of a line. Why? Well, the reason why you can't measure a line is because it never ends. It never starts and it never ends. A line segment, on the other hand, has an endpoint and another endpoint, so you can measure that area. If we turn over to page 52, we're going to talk about different lines, different parallel lines versus perpendicular lines. And when they talk about parallel lines, they mean basically these lines are always going to be going together. Two sets of lines that measure the same length and are going to be parallel. And they can be either lines or line segments. They can either be which way. So, and they can go any crazy different way, it doesn't matter, as long as they're two parallel lines. This is still considered a parallel line as well, because they still measure the same length. And they are still going this way. They'll never cross. So they will never cross. Now, on the other hand, perpendicular lines, they're slightly different, and they will cross. They may be as simple as a right angle, or like a T. We can make these lines, and we can make that a line segment. It doesn't matter. Or even any which way. But they will always cross. Always cross at some point. And that's considered crossing. That's considered crossing, and that would be our crossing point. Again, the name of that is called perpendicular. Pretty big word, but this means basically they're going to always cross at some point. And again, they can be line segments or straight out lines, but they'll always cross at some point. And also, lines or line segments, and these are perpendicular, they have to create a 90-degree angle. So they always have to create some type of 90-degree angle. And right here's two of them. That's one that has four 90-degree angles. So they kind of give you samples of some that are not going to be perpendicular, or perpendicular would be, I'm going to draw it down here. Even though these are going to cross, there's no right angle. So this would be not perpendicular. Because remember, it always has to have to cross plus a 90-degree angle. So this kind of give you an idea. If we look at page 52, On the left-hand side, those line segments are going to be parallel. On the ones on the right, they have some kind of going away from each other. Those would not be parallel. Even though they're the same length, they're not parallel. And one of them actually is a perpendicular line. Down the bottom there, it says these lines are the line segments, and these pairs are perpendicular on the left-hand side. On the right shows you some examples of when not perpendicular. And the difference between those are, again, the right angles. And then I want you to do tonight is, we're going to skip 53 for now. We're going to look at that in class tomorrow. But turn over to page 54. And I want you to do 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Do not do 14 and 15. We're going to do those as a class. So again, page 53 we'll do in class. But for tonight's for homework, I want you to do 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Work on those perpendicular and parallel lines. Remember, parallel never crosses. Perpendicular is always going to cross, plus have a 90-degree angle at some point. Remember, something like this would not be perpendicular. Something like this will not be parallel lines. And now, have a good night, and you've been flipped.